All right, here we go. Top 8. Nightbringer versus Loopee. And it's the standard Snoke Watto FOST versus the Watto Talzin. Watto taking 2 dice, trying to leverage that resource income. This is pre-errata. The top cut started that way. It's going to finish that way. I think that's only fair. But this is going to be a pretty interesting test run of the Watto Talzin deck. I think it's the second time we've seen this in the top cut, as it does survive post errata for the most part. Watto gets a little bit of a ding, but nothing too crazy, nothing that's going to push him out. The interesting thing here about Nightbringer's deck is he is really all in on being able to slam a lot of damage. He only has 8 mitigation, it's all paid, and 2 vandalize. 8 mitigation is to flank, the best defense at odds, and witch magic there's 2 ofs. That's not entirely a well-rounded lineup in my opinion, but it has worked for him thus far. And it looks like Loopee will be taking the battlefield to start with. He's going to opt for Salt Flats. Makes a certain amount of sense. And targeting is going to be interesting. So Nightbringer does have sudden impact, and he does have an Umbar and hover tank. But so a lot of his damage will be kind of AoE. But what he did start with is Evader's Fist, and so he's going to have to make a decision once that actually happens. So it's going to be a tough call on that end, I think, to decide who to slam the damage into. With Vader's Fist, and if he can get a focus die to stick out on Watt, he'll probably try to go for Snoke. If he can get like 6 or 9 damage in on Snoke, I'm sure he's happy to do it. Hidden Motive will be most likely used wisely on Watto or on Watt's die to get off of the focus, or he'll just play the Vigilance that's sitting in his hand to prevent that from happening. So if he's looking at not getting guaranteed, 6 to 9 on one character, I'm sure he would be happy just to resolve a lot of indirect and then make his decision later. Any direct damage at that point probably goes on the First Order Stormtrooper, just to get the Snoke power action for damage offline. And he does spend his dollar to play at odds, which is going to make it at least a little bit difficult to get a good value out of Vader's Fist. He's going to have to play both mobilizes at that point, unless he rolls out Talzin to swap over to the +2. If he does that, though, then the Vader's Fist becomes a little less reliable. But given that he has a focus side showing, Snoke's power action is still online, it would not surprise me if he plays a mobilize at some point. That, like, he just Snoke power actions for 3 discard. Says, okay, you got what you wanted, but now your hand's gone. I really don't agree with that Salt Flat action there. I think you kind of have to wait for Talzin to come out, or for that die to get focused to the +2 side somehow. And that's pretty meh. A trap for Nightbringer here would be roll out Talzin and focus Watt's die into double focus. So he may avoid that. And his dice just aren't helping him here. And that'll get Hidden Motive away pretty swiftly. And let's see here, Nightbringer's going to have to pitch a card to reroll at this point, and then his hand's just going to be gone. And that's going to set him back pretty seriously. This is one of very few cases where I actually would have advocated for a self-Watto reroll on that blank. and to just try to get what you can get. I think this would be the easiest triple discard decision of all time. You still get to play the what was that? The ID-10 droid. And you would have completely stuck him out of resolvability. Misses his own Watto reroll, which is why I really don't advocate for that action. Hardly ever. Certainly not like if he was going to do it, he probably should have done it before dropping that fourth card out of his hand. Even a probe here could be pretty devastating. It would leave NightBrin3R with 0 dice resolved round 1, both money spent, 0 income generated, which would all but seal this game, I feel. ID-10 definitely going to get resolved. That Vader's Fist is definitely going to go away. And then I wouldn't even be surprised if he plays the probe just to get the mobilize out to keep him off 1 additional resource. You know, maybe he waits till next turn to, you know, put the screws on him when it comes to mitigation, but you know, probe as disrupt isn't the worst. Not when there's still another Vader's Fist. Yep, there we go. Get that out of there. Or at that point, the more dangerous line of play for NightBrin3R to take would have been double Entourage with follow-up and the money to pay for it. Pretty good discard there. I mean, it was 50-50, so no complaints. But Snoke is coming out on top of this. No battlefield control. And I don't see why he wouldn't Snoke power action. Okay. That's another interesting line of places. You know what? I bet I can get my money next turn. I bet I'm not going to have a problem with it. So let's disrupt 2. Oh, taking all of it. 1 damage for 1 disrupt. Money on top. Puts him 3-2. And with one of the major threats gone out of NightBrin3R's deck, he's on the back foot. ID-10 isn't, you know, the most significant of significant board state bumps, but when your opponent got absolutely nothing, you know, any little bit helps there. Vigilance kept, Vandalize in play, and NightBrin3R very unlikely to get absolutely everything he wants done this round, but he could conceivably get this planetary bombardment down with a sudden impact, and depending on that planetary roll, that'll help him out quite a bit, recovering his position. Problem for him, he's certainly going to be staring down a Vader's Fist, and wouldn't be surprised in the least to see the Vigilance come out and make resolutions really difficult. 2 disrupt on its own there may not be the worst. You resolve that 2 disrupt and you find your way into getting out Count Dooku Solar Sailor. You start clawing your way back up into a decent board position and start trying to find your way through. Only a flank is mitigation for NightBrin3R, but no mitigation aside from a Vandalize. That is extremely unlikely to be played. Or a Loopee. The aggressive play with the cannon, but it gets his resources resolved. Makes a lot of sense to me. But Nightbringer does have to play around the Watto power action. So if I were Loopee there, I probably would have played that Vigilance to make just to force the rolls, and he certainly needs to do so now. If Nightbringer takes any action other than rolling Talzin out right now, you play Vigilance, wait for him to discard. If he ends up getting his resources matched up, then you Snoke power action the discard 3, and you just keep taking his hand at that point. That's the way to go through. You don't have a lot of damage dice, but you certainly have more than Talzin's single die. Maybe forgetting about Watto's power action will really put a damper. And that is the correct move. A lot of people would have just done Watt's die just to make it unresolvable. But there, get to clear the other Watto die out on the field. You decrease income by 1. It was good. That was the right move. I like that quite a bit. 4 virtual resources for Nightbringer. Not enough for the planetary bombardment, not even enough for a fist, so he's not happy with any of it. But he'll take what he can get anyway. And gonna have to start thinking about his Salt Flat action. Gonna see 3 cards ripped out. Loopee thinking that he's got an entourage in there, but he gets the second fist. That thing is out of play the entire time, and the big damage dealer in sudden impact is gone as well. Watt's power action used for the first time. Not the most inspiring of die sides for that to land on, but value is value. I think now's the time for Salt Flats to get used on that droid focus. That's going to turn into 2 focus and quite a bit of damage coming across the table. Interesting reroll. Not sure that was necessary, but it worked out. That was a very impactful reroll. We're going to be looking at 5 range damage plus 2 indirect damage. And there's going to be a choice made whether to go for 1 melee on the ID10 or just to go ahead and take the card post Dooku Solar Sailor rollout. Just to snipe the top card out. I believe, I can't remember what it was. Was it a flank or was that last round? I cannot recall. Certainly don't support resolving that right now. He's going to roll the Solar Sailor out. You're going to have your choice of those 2 cards. I think maybe resolving the single focus onto the Stormtrooper to force the Salt Flat action, and then the double focus on Snoke to get things back where you want. It was a Vandalize. Yeah, I guess he's not worried about the Vandalize. Nightbringer may want to reroll with that Vandalize. He gets a second action here. 1 shield is not what you're trying to resolve, but really there's only a 33% chance of getting better. So you might just take the shield and keep the claim. Loopee about to get blown out by Salt Flats. Could go for just 3 indirect or 2 direct, and more money would probably be what he's thinking about focusing to. Not sure if that was entirely necessary. But he is on the disrupt plan. I think with 3 major threats gone, with only 3 left, being the, well, 4 left, I guess. The Embar and Hover Tank, the other planetary bombardment, and both entourages. I don't know if you need to disrupt there, although it does force the Watto action. But NightBrin3R keeps the claim. That's a leader die, you can't change that. Alright. Well, I would not have resolved that shield, I would have kept that claim. But that's just me. With that little amount of mitigation, I don't think you can afford to give up the Salt Flats and the relative safety that represents. I also don't think shuffle that up. Easily fixable. Look at that, judging on the fly. I'm great. I don't think you have much to worry about. I don't think you care about the resources at that point. But it's the general gist of what I was getting at. Would not be surprised to see yet another Snoke power action on a non-resource side. And no mitigation once again for Loopee, but he's been trucking along just fine without it, just by preventing the damage from even having a chance to hit the table. Again, here I think you just have to play your vigilance. I know he's going for the Mega Blaster Troopers, but he'll still have money for those after vigilance gets played. And we're gonna see Entourage hit the floor here. You notice that that's on a single focus. Probably pay attention. Not what he wanted to do, most likely. But that's what's out there, that's what's sticking around. I mean, he'll certainly resolve all 3 of those disrupt, right? Puts him off every single playable card in his deck. And he's already resolved his money-making dice, except for Dooku's Solar Sailor. And at that point, even the maximum possible, we're looking at Watt, Amber, plus Dooku's Solar Sailor, all resolved for money. I don't think... like, what is he worried about? A single entourage, maybe a pain, but I don't think it actually gets him anywhere. And it takes a lot of effort and work to get there. And at any given time, he could focus this ID-10 droid over to another special and strip out the threat. That was pretty swift. If NightBrin3R were to ask, I would say he'd be allowed to draw his card before he takes an action. It seems like he forgot to draw his card off of the Solar Sailor. He can't focus, can't get what he wants done. He's stuck in the reroll city. And Snoke power action still live. Good roll there for Loopee. Mega Blaster coming out. There's going to be some more dice added to this pool. And it is round 3, and the first big resource gain has occurred. Oh, you gotta throw away the Vandalize, man. You can't afford to not resolve 3 of your character dice next round or the round after. Like, that's just not gonna get you anywhere. And you already have 3 threats gone. Like, yes, the speeder tank is probably the least interesting or inspiring of all of your threats. But it's still a threat. You still need it. I really disagree with throwing that away. Snipes out that fist. That's 2 for 2. Are we in a no fist zone here? Nah, that's just the one. You got the Entourage earlier. But Mega Blaster almost as good. NightBrin3R cuts his losses. Takes 2 shields. And is losing this game very slowly. Oh, nice casual 6 damage. Gonna slam into somebody. At this point, fuck it. Put it on Watto. You kept him off resources all game. May as well, keep him off permanently. Damage got to go somewhere, and 12 hit point Watt is like a tougher target. So you see him, he's got no fist. One of the speeder tanks is gone. One of the planetary bombardments is gone. You haven't seen the tank come out. Couldn't pay for the special sight on the tank anyway. Like, just slam Watto. Wants the Imperial officer. Greedy. Very greedy. I mean, I like it, I guess, but if you just keep trying to build more and more into a board, certain turns can happen where all of your board is for naught, and you just get wrecked. So I would have settled for the 6 damage there, and just kept both the officer and the Entourage in my hand. Especially if you're not even willing to turn the die. Like, if he had a strong case for maybe getting indirect instead of direct damage, I could see that line of play, but 3 indirect is vastly worse than 2 direct right here. And this entire line of play, in my opinion, was vastly worse than being able to slam 6 damage onto Watto. You haven't seen any witch magics yet, I don't think. And you're just going to continue to tie up those resources in preemptive mitigation. And you would have had a really, really advanced board in comparison. You could have gotten there. You could have made good stuff happen. So. Can NightBrin3R actually afford to be throwing away too many cards? I guess he's only halfway through his deck, but feels like he's just been getting nothing out of everything that he's drawn. Best defense will help a little bit. Delve will not, unless he draws into a secondary planetary bombardment, which means I would expect him to roll out this Solar Sailor right off the rip before Watto can get onto a discard side. And I think we're stuck, possibly. Or I am still on this hotel internet. It's not good. So not only do I appreciate both players' patience in dealing with this, I appreciate all of you, the viewers, for dealing with this. It's not ideal to do the commentary in this way, but it will. It's functional enough. It's certainly better than what we had in the early days of Destiny. Doubt's a card that has been falling into and out of favor here for a little while. It's certainly going to make a resurgence now that we have the Watto changes. And I think you just snap-fired doubt on that Entourage. You have no way. Yeah, you can keep Watto dice from getting resolved for money through a good use of vigilance, but I think snap-fired doubt there wouldn't have been the worst. It would have been okay. Nope, being a big old pain in the butt. Nightbringer can use the Salt Flats on Watt, change them to a focus. That'll draw out one resource and a vigilance. Certainly. Meanwhile, Loopee's options are wide open. And, like, why not take those resources? I think Loopee needs to shift into an aggressive mindset here. He's done a very good job of controlling everything, but he needs to get resources, get Entourage down, and get with getting on the damage. He is still ahead. He may fall behind depending on rolls if this second Entourage of Nightbringers hits the floor. I don't agree with that sequence right there. Resolving both of Snoke's dice for Disrupt there is going to make it very difficult to get the second Entourage down, unless you start throwing away Vigilance or Doubt for rerolls. Imperial Officer could be used to swap one of those other FOST dice to a resource, but you want damage on those bad boys. You want your Watto die on the resource. And Snoke would have solved all of those problems. I think that was actually a good get for Nightbringer to get those Snoke dice off the table. Let's see if he remembers to draw his card. Gets the money side naturally. Gets a Fickle for his trouble. Definitely doubt that. 100% doubt that. And he gets to focus to 1 money. Or gonna go for the Disrupt, keep him off of Fist. Scared of Fist? Reasonable reaction. But at the end of the day, it's still just losing very slowly. Matches up the range direct. It's more Disrupt to boot. He has a Salt Flat action, I think. Yeah, I think he's got to use that. He is going to choose correctly and blank out the cannon rather than the FOSS die with Imperial Officer on the field. The Imperial Officer could probably come out, change that Trooper die to some other good stuff, or change the Mega Blast die to other good stuff. Just have at it. I'm not sure why he's keeping Vigilance after this round. Doesn't make the maximum amount of sense, but you're gonna see, you could see double Entourage come down. Scoundrel count 2 for that Entourage special. Very uninspiring. NightBrin3R may be ahead on damage, but I don't think it's going to stay that way after this round. Let's give him a time check. I think going for the indirect there would have been better. Alright, NightBrin3R calling it. Doesn't want to go to time or the first game as a loss. And I don't blame him for that. Ooh, that was a slog. I was told that these decks were supposed to be really good at dealing a lot of damage round 1. I feel as though I were lied to. But nobody really willing to make the call just to go maximum aggression, although I'm sure NightBrin3R would have loved to at any given point to get a lot of money. He just could not manage to find the dice or the right amount of focus or resources to get there in the face of a Watto power action, Watto disrupt, Watto discard, and a very timely ID10 droid, which is just really oppressive. If you're this slow kind of deck, playing against another slow kind of deck, and someone's reaching into your hand semi-randomly every round, it's awful. Definitely going to see this Entourage kept. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Delve kept. A round 1 Delved Fist or Planetary Bombardment seems to me like it could have been really, really good. I definitely don't agree with keeping Fickle there. You can always find a Fickle off of your second Entourage. That seems like a waste of a card right there. And until you have a really good grasp on what the money situation is like, I don't think Fickle is even worth trying to play in this matchup in a vacuum anyway. That could very easily backfire. All it takes is them to get ahead of you on resources just a little bit, just enough to snatch that Fickle and start using it to deal damage. Made even worse if they are also able to outclaim you at some point. Then they can keep you from getting benefit of the Fickle ever again, basically. And so playing that Fickle essentially turns it into a Disrupt 3 on yourself, just to get it back. And whatever damage it got resolved for in the meantime against you ends up really bad. And the most you can hope for, really, before that happens, is 2 damage going across the table the other way in the direction you like it. So discard 1, disrupt 3, take 0 to 4 damage to deal 2 damage of your own. Not a great deal. And yes, you do get to wad it out there, but it's not 100% resolvable all the time. It's going to be wadding out Entourage likely this first round. And so even Fickle on round 2 in a very resource-hungry deck where all of your cards are odd, you get nothing for free. And you want to keep at-odds money up. You want to keep flank up. You want to keep your Vandalize open for business. That 3-for-1 may just be a trap side. It might be a blank that you don't realize is a blank in that situation. Where if you resolve that die, things will start going very, very poorly. Flank versus flank on both sides. Nobody's online yet, and that's a natural resource roll. Definitely going to get Snoke power action. NightBrin3R can do nothing about it except Watto it out of there. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to get that thing not snoked out. He'll pick up $1 on its own, though, and he's going to force at least a reroll or a focus resolution. So it's about the best he could have hoped for in that situation, with the +2 being essentially a blank. But things could go the other way. He could get a natural resource side on one of these Snoke dice. Be perfectly happy resolving that and keep Stormtrooper available for Snoke's power action, slam 4 damage on top of a fist round 1. There are ways for it to go wrong, for sure. Pulling the other entourage, I assume. Yep. He gets a blank. Now, the one thing Fickle does do is bump that scoundrel count. If things start looking really up for Nightbringer here really swiftly, this scoundrel count could hit 4 immediately. And we could see a lot of damage get thrown across the table. Landing dock power action, not too often seen used. But it could have worked out and gotten at least another card out of Loopee's hand. This is fist money with probe backup. I think you have to take those 2 Watto discards. Because if you have the entourage down, you have a method by which to get it to its money side off of Watt. I think you take your 50% chance on getting a threat out of his hand. Unless you're positive your opponent has multiple threats and you can't get them both, I think you take your shot. Because now you have to outramp a Vader's Fist with 2 Snoke dice still left on the table, and you have no method of interaction from this position. Power actions are gone, landing dock's gone, flank is offline, and will likely remain so. Got to ramp hard. Got to ramp very, very hard. I haven't been keeping track of Forsaken playability. But if there was an opportunity to get rid of the entourage die previously with Forsaken, I certainly think he should have taken it. And I really think a reroll prior to using the Watt focus would have been beneficial there. If you managed to get one of those +2 sides on Watto, he could have ramped out really, really well. Right now, all he's doing is oppressing with those discard sides, and Loopee's probably thinking, like, I don't care. Like, I'm not going to use my probe. Not when you still have 5 cards left. You can't do anything right now. What do I care? Can't play anything anyway. And my fist is rolling hot. Now, how many rerolls do I need? I only need the 1. Reroll certainly coming now. I don't know why you would disrupt 1 there. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I think Talzin gets used on Watto's other die to get +2. I think that's the right call there. Loses at odds, but keeps his Fickle. And then he will get the other entourage and the Fickle out, and still have 1 reroll left over at all the end of it. This is succeeding beyond any hope I would have had at how I've seen this round go and play out. But we've seen 6 damage come from a fist thus far. Could see another 3. Unresolvable. I think this is the point where Loopee realizes I'm not playing flank. Definitely would have gotten rid of that Entourage die with the Forsaken right there, though. It absolutely... That Entourage die needs to go away, because if it re-rolls into Special, and we're at Scoundrel Count 3, about to be on Scoundrel Count 4, you're one unhappy camper. And I think even in the absence of that, you take the Snoke money and force the resolution of Entourage on Disrupt. Yes, here you are getting your 9 damage fist round 1, and you're coming up with $1 on the end of all of it. But this reroll could be extremely dangerous. 1 in 36 chance of just one-shotting this Stormtrooper. Not super likely. But everybody's seen similar odds happen. Definitely don't resolve your direct. What? Makes no sense to me. Unless that's a feint and he's trying to get him to assign indirect elsewhere. After this reroll, or if you're satisfied with that 3 indirect, which I think he will be satisfied with that 3 indirect, none of it's going to go to the Stormtrooper now, so... Why resolve the direct? You're in no rush. Make him make the decisions, and you can follow along after. Certainly needs to do it before he rerolls. The argument there is, by resolving the direct, is like Watto doesn't get the power action on that die. And now you do some weird, claimy, timey-wimey kind of stuff here. Like, will he, won't he? Is he going to reroll? Do I need to worry about what it pops up with? Is he just going to claim out from under me? But I think if he would have just baited out the Watto power action, like worst case scenario, you get your damage. Like, I guess absolute worst case scenario is 3 for 1 on range that you can't pay for, and then opponent gets 2 money. But you have 2 money. You had 2 money sitting on the Entourage, and on basically any other side, it's just like resolving Fickle for Disrupt, and then you still had that flank to reroll with afterward. We're definitely going to see this at odds played. At least I think we should have. I don't agree with the higher muscle play here, I don't think. He has money to pay for 4 indirect sides. So if he is really playing around as much removal as possible, he could just start resolving 4 indirect sides at that point. He's up on money. I don't know. I don't know why he put another die in the pool when he has Forsaken in his hand. But or B, I don't know why he didn't just take the Fickle. Fickle should not be getting resolved at the moment, but it is what it is. People are bad at playing Fickle. People are bad at playing against Fickle. It's just one of those things. I think that 1 damage would have been better served on Watto. If Talzin rolls out into her 2 direct, he could have just killed a character, and like, why turn down killing a character? Here it's going to be a little more difficult to get the Stormtrooper actually dead. It would take some combination of the hired muscle and Talzin's die. Counter argument to that being that if hired muscle rolls its 3 for 1, then you know that kills Watto and you don't waste any damage. But if you're sitting under the specter of a 3 disrupt side that's just going to sit there and oppress the shit out of you for the entire round, which it will, then meh. How likely are you to actually resolve that hired muscle side? I would say not very. We got maximum disrupt. And Slave 1 power action currently has a 50-50 chance being able to get a die off the field. Slave 1, one of very few things that can actually remove a Watto die. It's not an event. Yeah, that's a... Hold on. Yeah, okay. They got it sorted. More than happy to do that, I'm sure. Now, if Loopee gets a little big for his britches and focuses off of that 3 disrupt, we're going to see, a delve into a planetary bombardment. And that might get a lot of work done. Might even see a mobilize from there. Just to pay for that 7 for 1 side, which would be brutal. Oh, well, there goes that plan, right? Things have gone awry. I was just trying to find natural resources wherever he can get them. Vandalize still not online for Loopee for anything that actually matters. Makes sense. I think he's happy just to keep that one side as well. Could see a reroll here, find maximum money. He's going to go ahead and use his Talzin focus first. And start doing Scoundrel damage. So Scoundrel will kill the Stormtrooper, proving my earlier statements wrong. 1 die to kill this Stormtrooper. Vandalize not online. No way to save the Stormtrooper. The money doesn't really matter at this point. You need to start racing. Gonna see that go there, and we should see the other Snoke die go to focus. That's not ideal. But here comes Watt death. He should have taken that money off of Watt. If he's gonna sacrifice a Stormtrooper now, would have sacrificed it later. No reason to lose the money. Or barring that, at least resolve the shields from hired muscle. Or even played at odds on Vader's Fist. Watt had no need to die there. That's just kind of a generalized statement of fact. Also, very weird focus action. I'm trying to think of why Loopee would use that focus action. And let's say he's just balls out sure that hired muscle or fickle mercenary is going to work for him, because Forsaken does him very little good right here. I mean, can't remove the Watto dice with it. Who cares about Talzin's die? And are you really pleased about getting rid of a hired muscle when it's going to be showing like discard? Can't remove it on its best side. Deuce Shield is actually resolvable. Not happy about it, but it is actually resolvable. One card for one damage saved. And a very awkward turn or a round sequence in between there. Not the best. I think you would have been better off putting those shields on Watto. Worst case, you end up using them for indirect later. But Watto could just die on this rollout. Yep. Two shields would have prevented that. But here, why wouldn't you kill Watto? Yep. More mitigation options offline. Vandalize is nigh useless. Not confident he's going to draw the second delve, I guess. None of that. He wants mitigation. He wants to get so far ahead. We are at 40 minutes left. So, I assume Loopee thinks that like he's going to be able to vandalize hired muscle and it's going to matter, but it's not, because for essentially the same overall cost and resources, cards, dice, all of that, you're better off just spending 2 to take the hired of a mercenary away from NightBrin3R. You're definitely better off at least doing something about it right now. Now, Loopee should be rolling out this fickle mercenary. Who cares about the disrupt here? You have the advantage. Roll out. There we go. All right. No reason to resolve that just yet. But also no reason to probe. But probe hit the only thing that mattered. We are going to be seeing soon. I assume we're going to be seeing some entourage resolutions. Scoundrel count at 5. Scoundrel count at 5. 13 health left. With like absolute perfect type situation. Could see 8, 11. Could see 14. 14 damage come from Loopee this round. But it would take Balls of Steel and the luck of the gods to get there. So NightBrin3R at least going to go into next round at this point. Are they gonna catch it? Yep. All right. Ooh. Almost had to be fast on the draw there. All right, I think you definitely just take the money here and you delve out that planetary bombardment, and that really seals the deal, I think. Or you roll out Talzin and swap Watto's other die to +2. Then you take, and you could actually just play planetary bombardment and keep an extra reroll. You don't get to resolve hired muscle that way, probably. But, I don't know. Wouldn't have been the worst. This indirect off of Delve needs to go into Talzin. Well, putting on Watto puts him at risk of a Slave 1 death. She may have thought it was just as likely to be killed by Vader's Fist, but that is not a vehicle. But Talzin will go ahead and swap some dice. I think he should get Tired Muscle and his entourage out on the field. Force the resolution of the disrupt. Reduces focus availability. Maybe even resolve Watto's discard. Isn't the worst thing in the world here. Spend your 1 reroll and then roll out Talzin. Is how I would do that. In the next round, though, is opening action. If he's not threatened for lethal, will be to roll out the planetary bombardment and do a lot of solid work there. Counter count 5, 8 damage on board into Snoke with 11 health left total. I just want to point out that was one of the best Slave 1 actions I've ever seen in my entire life. Like that, what a trade. What a trade there. Blank for blank. Vandalize coming in. And clearing Stifle. Not doing anything of import at all. Counter count is 5. We'll put Snoke up to 5. With 3 to follow. And if Loopee needs to reroll here, he's not going to get the first action on this next round, which will put him behind the 8 ball in every conceivable way. Because this planetary bombardment is going to bring some heat. And NightBrin3R says, I'm getting, you can claim, but I'm getting in the next round with maximum everything. Double Witch Magic. Doesn't have the claim, but he's got 6 health in hand. The only thing that matters, 2 health in hand for Loopee. Does have a Beguile, but he is kind of out of money and he can't flank. And it's not like Doubting is a good place to be against planetary bombardment. It's lethal. He's got to do something. He can force a reroll, or he could spend 2 just to remove the die. I think he just has to go lucky with the Doubt and save the Beguile. I think that's about the only thing you can possibly do at this point. You just have to hope for a blank or a disrupt on that planetary bombardment. Everything else is just losing very, very slowly. Landing dock actions the same as doubt, but worse. So if you were committing to that, why not just doubt? Now all he's got to do is roll out Talzin, put you right back in the same position. You know, sure, you get to mess with an additional die now off of your Beguile, but you know, a blank Talzin die, use Talzin ability. I don't know. I think you just take your 1 and 6 off of doubt. Not like these hits are going to stop coming. Loopee on a desperate search for money. Finding very little else. And there's the kill shot. Gonna have to overwrite with Riot Shield. Or, you know, suffer just finding 1 damage, and there it is. Woo! Woo! Alright, moving into game 3 with 29 minutes left. And once again, I find myself in a position where I have to refresh myself on the tiebreaker rules when somebody has won game 1. I want to say, if I'm correct, thinking this, that if there's no clear winner at the end of time, at the end of the round, at time in this game, then NightBrin3R loses because he lost the first game. Let me check. Seeing some mulligan action here. I'm just filling dead air while I look up some rules. But hey. Oh, and I am just flat out wrong. It just follows the going to time rules. It'll be interesting. Do some quick play here from both players. I think I would have best defensed those Snoke dice and then rolled out Talzin. All this is going to do is force that action. Could see a Watt. I keep getting mixed up. A Watto power action, or Doubt's kind of risky there because even the 1 focus puts him right back where he wants to be. I would have Watto power action first there. And the one extra money doesn't really matter here because you delve for Vader's Fist 100%, but now you have to stare down a Vader's Fist at the same time. Leading off with the best defense both messes with the sequencing in a way that's not harmful for you, and it removes this like extra focus action on board type situation. Oh, he did do the indirect. I'm dumb. Alright. Well, I shouldn't touch things. I see no reason not to plug that damage right into Snoke's big mouth. You got money. FOST is, you could do worse. At least he's not hitting Watto. He doesn't need to be that lucky to kill FOST here. Certainly resolvable. Absolutely resolve that for indirect side. And I do agree with the Mega Blaster over the Fist. Likely seeing at least 7 damage come back across. It's certainly worth re-rolling to find it, but that's not necessary. You could get 8 here. 8 into Talzin, 7 into Watt. Ooh, dangerous. Dangerous place to be. That is a dead Stormtrooper. So he will only get 7 damage, but he has to spend an action to resolve a ranged right now. Cannot vandalize a Vader's Fist. Could Watto power action it, but I think you just resign yourself to the Trooper dying and try to hit harder. Even if that ends up on indirect, you're not happy. It's resolvable on almost all sides. It's like indirect is the only side you're unhappy seeing, and he's got 3 rerolls. Like something is happening with that die. You don't have any disrupt. You don't have any way to interact with it after this. I don't even see why you would re-roll it. Truthfully, I think you just take your 1 damage. I think you just let FOST die, and you try to move on from there. Changing his mind. Give me that Talzin. Playing an Imperial officer here, I mean, you do get the money back. You will get 1 money back from it from that focus, but if Nightbringer's opening action is Witch Magic on Talzin, Loopee's not happy there. You spent an entire round and one of your dudes died for a grand total of 2 damage and 1 disrupt and 1 discard. Paid in the next round. That's not great. I'd certainly agree with throwing the Vandalize there. You're not going to win this game from this position by clearing out every single character die you have available to you. In trying to get rid of Fist, the damage has been done. About the best odds you could have hoped for there. Pro Vandalize Doubt. And double best defense. Best defense isn't going to feel great on these dice. It would have felt a lot better on Vader's Fist. But if it keeps Talzin alive, I don't know, why not do it? Bar and Hover Tank, let's get a refresh on that one. There are no mods in the deck, so it will only do 2 damage, but it can get wadded out, but it won't be. Opting for the quick hit off of a hired muscle. Disrupt, probably resolvable. Then you know the board state isn't going to get any worse. Only 3 dice that you really care about. Like, really care about, and each of them only do 2 damage. You can salt flat one of them back to a blank. I don't have a particular issue. This doubt could pay off horribly, though. Especially with a Vader's Fist in play. That's the one mitigation card that he has other than a Watto power action. And the way is pretty clear here. Yep. Now, once Watt's die enters the pool, Vigilance has to be played. Or else Salt Flat. Well, I guess you can wait for the Salt Flat action. I guess that makes more sense. But the second you see some focus pop up, he's got to drop Vigilance. And he's got to make it happen. Just to have a prayer. I think this 3 damage, it doesn't really matter where it goes. I think if you put it on Watto, then it forces the indirect in a certain direction. And, like, yes, you're not going to let your opponent misplay by doing that, but you're also not going to waste any dice. Like, no damage is going to go to waste no matter what happens. Unless you make the decision to let it go to waste. So there's that. Four rerolls. Well, 3 rerolls, because he's going to be playing Vigilance, more than likely. Even though it should have happened earlier. Just holding it for way too long. Lasts all round. The indirect doesn't matter at all from Snoke's dice. Definitely wants a resource side somewhere from something. And I honestly don't even think that Mega Blaster Disrupt matters either. I think you re-roll that Mega Blaster Disrupt, because if anything's getting resolved, it's either going to get resolved 1 and 1, and so he's going to end up with a money at the end of it anyway to resolve Hired Muscle, or it's going to get resolved for 3 total, in which case if you're re-rolling your 3rd Disrupt on Snoke's die, you're not actually saving yourself from anything. You're preventing Entourage, but still allowing Hired Muscle to go through. And that's roughly, very roughly the same at this point. This will kill Talzin, though. So we're going to see this focus get used on Watto's die. Probably just for a single money. Oh, no, you can blank it. I forgot he's got Salt Flat. Definitely see a reroll here. Get to include the Imperial Officer die in the reroll. There's quite a few sides that could come up with some more direct damage. Or you could go super ballsy, super aggressive, like extra aggressive, and Watto your own FOST blank for blank. You either get enough money on board to play Fist and keep your rerolls and your Snoke power action without having to damage, or now you can't damage Watto. Or you get to kill Talzin. That would have been perfectly legitimate. Got money to spare. Odds of getting 2 more resource sides are very low. But I guess he wanted to keep the option open for the +2 on Watto's die. Or indirect does not matter in the slightest. And here comes 3 money. $15 minutes, roughly, left in round. And I can see the wheels turning from here. Even Watt's 1 indirect is actually relevant in this position. Loopee only has 9 health remaining. No shield availability. Any free side on Vader's Fist really changes things around. Like, it doesn't change things around. I do believe NightBrin3R is going to win this, but it really just drills it home. Meanwhile, Loopee struggling to find either the focus or the damage to get Talzin dead. But he did get back onto the 3 disrupt. It just is what it is. And we might see some wasted damage here. But probably nice. Probably just going to put 3 into Snoke. And here comes an opposing fist. Boom. That's a dead Talzin. Fist coming out, making an appearance. No, there's no reason to roll hired muscle. Makes no sense. Like, past a bluff, I guess, but and doing things like that doesn't actually change board state or do anything. And here comes 2 more Mr. Rooney's resolving direct needlessly. If these this dice come up indirect. Right, 1 reroll. Might not even get to resolve it a second time. It's technically a resolution. It's 1 more roll on that die. 33% chance of something he's happy with. And we're just throwing things all over the place. I assume this is due to lag of some sort. Alright, gets us 3 direct. Hey, really? It was Entourage, right? Let me just make sure. Yep, alright. Oh, luckily that was fixed. Alright, and we're gonna see 3 damage go somewhere. $14 health against 6. Best defense, definitely worth keeping. Pick out that Mega Blaster main die plus Vader's Fist. Perfectly resolvable disrupt. Basically no mitigation for NightBrin3R. Gets an extra 2 health. And we could see him just at odds, and then the best defense, leaving him with very few damage dice. He gets to play out the rest of his round and entirely scot-free. But yeah, he needs to pick up one more resource before he fires off of this Entourage, I think. I mean, it's really unlikely that it works out that way, but he could, just nut roll him with 2 actions, 3 actions, and get there with damage if he is devoid of cash. Gets the lucky 1 in 6 shot on resources, so he's gonna have money. It's about the most perfect thing he could hope for. Especially if it inspires Loopee to resolve Snoke's die at 1 disrupt. And 1 cash for Watto. Definitely using that, I think. Certainly not going to play the hired muscle with nothing to follow up with. He doesn't resolve the Watto resource as is. He might just spin the fist die to hit Watto. I mean, the game is closer, I think, than it looks, depending on how this first reroll goes for Loopee. That resource could be critical. It's walking right into Watto's 2 disrupt, but it's not like Watto's die matters, basically. Especially when you have opposing disrupt, or the strong possibility of opposing disrupt off of a Mega Blaster, Watto, and or Vader's Fist reroll. I don't know. Could have gone either way there. $15 absolute maximum damage as things stand for the sum total. Or I guess 16. 16 maximum damage. I I think it is, right? So 4 plus 3, 7 plus 6, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 if every single die hits max damage and Loopee, and then Nightbringer just forgets that Disrupt is a thing. Not the reroll I would have done, or not the Salt Flat action I would have done. Everything's getting rerolled anyway. Probably want to use it on focus. There's the double focus. And assuming he doesn't come off of that 3 side on the fist, that puts maximum damage at 14, which would be perfect for a kill, for a total kill. I think Fist needs to come out in search of a shield side, or he needs to spend this focus. Yep, and find himself a resource to have at odds online. Now, what it takes to win from here is he needs 9 damage, so you can get 7 off of those 3 red dice in total, and then one of those Snoke dice needs to make its way over to indirect. And he needs to take that money from Watto right now to do it. Absolutely has to take his Watto money to have a prayer. I think Loopee might get it unless he outright loses on this round if it goes to time. If he resolves those 3 focus right now, or gets 6 damage out of it, or I don't know. Where does that end up? Unlikely. You can't actually kill Nightbringer because if that Mega Blaster die goes over to the 3 indirect, it'll get at odds to the bottom of the deck. I don't see why he wouldn't play Forsaken right now. Part of the way there. So he's got 6 damage on board. Needs to re-roll both of those Snoke dice. Just get another 2. But I think you just got to go for the gusto here. Gonna get 6 damage in total. Gotta keep an eye on this time. Time is up. So now he's not even going to be able to resolve that Snoke focus, I don't think. Or the Snoke indirect. So we're at 25 damage dealt right now against 18 plus maybe 6 coming in, 24. It's a game for Nightbringer no matter what happens from this point, I think. Can't reroll basically anything to find a way out. It's unlikely that there's going to be anything comes of it. We'll get his 5 damage. And Entourage gets 4 rolls. Alright. Okay. Sure. That's insulting, I think. I mean, I guess it's a better die to reroll with, but it is what it is. Alright. So, congratulations to Nightbringer. Moving it on over to the top 4. Long games. I'm a bit worn out. Very long games, but they were interesting, and really goes to show that this meta is all about sequencing. Saw some sequencing errors. We saw some sequencing errors on behalf of both opponents getting exploited by the other. And so if you were to take a look at this game, maybe one more time, a little bit in depth, you can see a lot of situations that are relatively common. You see a lot of forced actions there, a lot of forbidden actions that kind of got ignored at their own peril. And, well, Snoke the Menace got ass blasted. Thanks everybody for watching.